Welcome to Rappler, Clarissa.
Hello, thank you very much.
I'll
It's
give
a
this to
pleasure
you.
be- It's a pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you here, and I was saying, just based on your resume, I thought you were much, much older, so I'm really glad to see.
Thank you. I'm not sure. That's a compliment. but I'll take this one.
Well, so tell me, how would you say this campaign is going so far?
I think nobody thought it would be this unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. There's so many things happening that affect how people will vote. The Supreme Court decision, all the suspense, all of the events that have been happening, whether or not candidates were going to run. And I think one of the things that makes this particularly exciting as a campaign season is because it's so close. People in the polls are saying they're going to be voting for this candidate or that candidate, but the figures change so quickly, right? We are very close to election day. This time, last election, people more or less knew who they're going to vote for as president. You don't expect those votes to be so changeable.
Right.
But you get a sense now that even this late, you can still change people's minds because they had just decided. And you still have people who are just slightly decided, and you can still switch them. And that's what's going to make it exciting because it's still so close.
And how are people trying to change people's minds?
There's a lot of sorties going on. The sorties are going to be important because Filipino voters really value physically seeing the candidates. It is very difficult to change someone's mind about whether they're going to vote for a candidate once they see them in person. Especially in the rural areas, especially in the provinces that are very far from Manila, because there's a sense that it shows that these national level politicians are paying attention to their issues because they feel neglected. So it's important that that one of the big ways that they're trying to address this is to go out on sorties, and that's important.
You're also doing a study, you're in the middle of a study right now on the impact of social media. And what are you seeing so far on social media?
Social media is interesting in the Philippines because it's with a growing set of the population. It's very young. They have a very different type of exposure to news. It's siloed in a sense that
Yes.
because they rely on social media so much without reading the physical newspaper.
Exactly.
When you read a physical newspaper,
Yeah.
even if you're not interested in an
You're
issue,
forced to see
you're
it,
forced
right?
to see
Yeah.
it because you're reading it.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't read the whole article, you're at least seeing the title. So you know what issues are out there. But in social media, because everything goes through Facebook now, most of people get their news from Facebook if they're young. If their friends are not interested in a particular issue or a particular candidate, it is possible they're just not going to get that exposure to stories that are related to things that their friends don't necessarily find interesting. So they end up in these issue silos and they end up in these candidate silos.
Yes.
Right? Because human beings always gravitate. Your friends are very much like you. Everybody's friends are very
The
much
echo
like
chamber,
them. It's
right?
an echo
They-
chamber. So
and-
everybody's in their own little echo chamber.
So far, do you see it as a positive or negative effect?
So far, I think it's a negative effect. I wouldn't say it definitively. The positive thing is there are many people who otherwise would not have any exposure to news, but have incidental exposure because it's on their feed, right? They wouldn't go out there and actually read a website, but if it's on their feed, they'll see it. The question now is, what is the nature of the information that gets on their feed?
You focus on narratives that are created that ripple through society, right?
Yes.
I mean, how would you define the narratives in these elections?
In these elections, the interesting thing is there's so many discussions about the history of people.
Fascinating.
You know, it all goes to the Poe narrative is very dramatic. There's a lot of it inspired a lot of debate about how we define having a state. How do we define foundlings? What are their rights, etc. And then Marcos, of course, has his own historical narrative. So this is not something that we've seen before, and it is very polarized. There are very rabid supporters of all of them. They have very rabid base voters, but there's a larger portion of the public, I think, that is really just trying to study the issues and make decisions based on what they think will be good for their own area.
Fantastic. We're going to come back to you